Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness. Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. Oh, he hit it. Ja Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies did escape with a win against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. They scored the final 13 points of the game to avoid an absolutely calamitous, disastrous, horrible weekend. They are now in Berlin as they're taking part in the NBA Europe games. They're going to be facing their old buddy Desmond Bane and the Orlando Magic on Thursday in Berlin. And of course, they're at the center of this firestorm. Maybe that's too strong of a word. They're at the center of this story around Ja Morant and their availability for trading him and Ja's status with the team. So it's a weird time to be a Grizzlies fan. It's a weird time to have the Grizzlies at the forefront of the NBA's Europe marketing. Ja Morant was not made available to media on Tuesday, January 13th. So on today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ja Morant. I'm going to talk about the win over the Brooklyn Nets. I'm also going to talk about the horrific collapse against the Thunder in the home game before that. Before I do, just a reminder, if you want to support the creation of this show, you can do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Thank you to all the listeners, supporters over there at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you sign up for the Patreon, you can join the listener Slack. We've been having a lot of great debate about the Ja Morant situation, about Zach Kleiman and the front office, and a lot of really smart, passionate Grizzlies fans are in there. It's a great way to communicate with those people, maybe outside of your regular social media channels. So if you want to be a part of that, also get access to exclusive bonus content, sign up over at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. I guess let's wrap up the basketball games that were played. The Grizzlies last week, of course, upset the Spurs on a exciting home victory on Tuesday. Second out of a back-to-back, they got destroyed by Dillon Brooks and the Phoenix Suns. And they were going to wrap up their homestand with a Friday night game against the Thunder and then the Sunday game against the Nets. When you saw that on the schedule, that's a tough draw because the Grizzlies had just played this run of playoff teams. The Sixers, the Lakers twice, the Spurs, the Suns, and then the Thunder. And the Grizzlies, of course, have not done very well against teams that are any good. But they finally got that win over a playoff team, beating the Spurs. And even with losing the next night to the Suns, you know, that Thunder game, a lot of us had anticipated a loss. And then it came out that the Thunder were going to be shorthanded. No Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren weren't going to play. Cason Wallace wasn't going to play. So you're like, all right, we can do this. I think we can do this regardless of who plays. And then the Grizzlies got up to a huge lead, and they led by 21 in the second half. And we're thinking, oh, this is nice. Thank you, Thunder, for giving us a chance to play another shorthanded team. But the Thunder got it together, just like they do basically every time the Grizzlies play them. The Grizzlies have now lost 16 straight games to the Thunder. You had your chance to snap that streak with no Shai, with a 20-point lead, but the Grizzlies absolutely collapsed. They gave up the lead. Maybe the story of this one is just Jaren's performance in the clutch continues to be woeful. The Grizzlies had an 11-point lead with 3.5 minutes left. They then gave up a 14-0 run. They were outscored 71-51 in the second half. This is against a very shorthanded team. And it ended up being, for me, I thought one of the most painful losses of the season. I, of course, am a scarred, detached, unemotional fan. Been through a lot. Sometimes I just kind of shut it down and say, I'm not going to worry about this game. I'm not going to worry about this season right now. This loss hurt. Easily the most painful loss of the season for me as a fan. And added to it was this came on the heels of all this Ja Morant news of the Grizzlies leaking through Shams Charania that they were willing to trade Ja Morant, making that public, getting that out there so fans can talk about it, so we can soften the ground so it doesn't hurt as bad maybe when it happens. And of course, during the week, I'd already identified that there was some strangeness with Ja Morant's availability. Remember, he was questionable for that Spurs game. It seemed like it was going to be a game time decision. I mean, it was a game time decision. Questionable for the Spurs game. And then we thought, all right, so that means they're just going to only play him one game of the back-to-back. He'll play the second night against the Suns. Questionable for the Suns, also didn't play that game. And then when the injury report came out for the Thunder game on Thursday, he was just out. And it's like, oh, well, what's going on? DeMichael Cole asked before the Nets game, like, why now Ja's just out? This was a questionable injury. Seemed like he was going to play last week. Now he's just out. And Tomas Islo said there's no new injury, just hasn't responded well. But also, we know, I think we know, we can infer, we can guess. This is just the further fraying of the relationship, probably with the Grizzlies. And Ja Morant wanting to get traded, the team wanting to trade him, however you assign the blame. This is one of those red flags. Now, a lot of the stuff we can talk about actual fact and things that happen, but some of the stuff with the Ja Morant behind the scenes, with the relationship with the front office, with the coaching staff, with his teams, with the franchise, we have to do conjecture, not use firsthand knowledge, try to connect some dots over the years. Like, whoa, maybe, like, where has the relationship soured if Ja Morant does one out? This isn't that the Grizzlies, as far as we know, this isn't the Grizzlies trying to trade a disgruntled star who wants to stay. I don't believe that, but of course we don't know for sure. But Ja not being available for the Thunder game or just being out was strange. Also, we can connect dots between the social media posts, like Ja posts on Twitter last Wednesday. Sometimes it be like that, keep going. We don't know what this means, but we have the Ja Morant being questionable, then all of a sudden Ja Morant being out. He posts this. What does it mean when Ja Morant posts? Is he being cryptic for fun? Is he just trying to get some engagement? But then you get the Shams Charania report that the Grizzlies are open to trading Ja Morant. Okay, that's all kind of red flags for the Ja Morant relationship with Memphis. But anyways, this play on the court, this game on the court against the Thunder, where Cam Spencer gets the start for Ja Morant once again. Cam has double-digit assists in this game. But, of course, not having Ja Morant, not having that call 12 option, you see the issues in close games against good defenses. There's no one can create their own shot. No one can get a shot. After the game, Tomas Islo says, we maybe don't have anybody on this roster who's like a 3-level threat. Is that a veiled shot at the front office? I don't think so. I think he's just being frank with the players who were available in that game. But Jaren's final quarter against the Thunder, perhaps I choose the adjective apocalyptic. Maybe we can stretch it back to the end of the third quarter where he got a lane violation. Jaren, with the seldom called lane violation, gave the Thunder a free point with a minute left in the third quarter. But Jaren in this fourth quarter does not score. He does get one rebound. He misses the 3-point attempt to start the fourth quarter. He then misses like a 5 or 6 foot floater. Seemed pretty easy. A shot he normally makes. He then subs out for his normal break during the middle of the fourth quarter. When he comes back in, we have an offensive foul, turnover, with 2 minutes left as the Grizzlies' collapse is full and raging He misses another floater in the lane. This is another clutch field goal attempt miss by the NBA's definition. Then with a minute left, the Thunder have finally taken the lead as Jaren's man, Kenrich Williams, hits a three-pointer from the corner. Jaren panics and throws a horrible pass to Cedric Coward. Jaren's being guarded by Kenrich Williams. That's probably the best matchup. Cedric Coward, listen, Cedric's great. Love Cedric. Cedric returned from the ankle injury. Everyone loves Cedric Coward. Cedric Coward's being guarded by Lou Dort. Doesn't feel like a better matchup. But Jaren throws a lazy, soft pass to Cedric. It gets intercepted. Now, it did seem like possibly Lou Dort stepped out of bounds. I think this boils down to, if you consider the bat that Lou Dort made, was that a dribble? Because if he dribbled and then stepped out of bounds, and then he can't be the first one to touch it. If he just batted the ball away, not a dribble, then he can be the first one to touch it as long as it reestablishes. Regardless, Jaren made a terrible pass and then committed a frustration foul. He compounded his error because the Thunder were in the bonus. This is a 1-point game. He throws the ball away, which is bad. Making it worse, he then fouls Lou Dort out of frustration, just grabs him. That sends the Thunder to the free throw line, gives them free points, making it even worse because of the out-of-bounds shenanigans, not being sure if Lou Dort was touching the sideline with his foot. The Grizzlies used their final timeout to challenge the call, hoping they challenged the foul call. It was an obvious foul call. They're hoping, proximate to the foul call, they see the out-of-bounds thing and it goes their way. They lose all this. So Jaren throws a bad pass, commits a bad foul, which he's been doing all season. And then the Grizzlies are now out of timeouts in a close game. Thunder go up. Final possession, maybe adding to Jaren's not great into the game. Final possession, Cedric Coward is guarded by Alex Caruso. Picks up his dribble. He is now stranded. Jaren's just standing there watching. Just stands and watches. Cedric Coward stuck with a really good defender on him. Would you rather Cedric had the ball in his hands? Would you rather Jaren had the ball in his hands? I guess that's debatable. But once he picked up his dribble, he was stranded. What's Jaren doing? I guess just spacing? Making it so his defender can't come and help? It was brutal. So the final tally for the last 13 minutes of the game against the Thunder, Jaren had 3 missed field goal attempts, 0 points, 2 turnovers, 2 fouls. And 1 standing still as, the clock ran out. So now we're turning briefly turning our ire back to why has Jaren been so bad in the clutch this season? Why has he struggled so much? For the game, he had 23 points because he was cooking early on. Just the final quarter, he had nothing for you. Jalen Wells also struggled again in that game. A 3 for 13 game. Cedric Coward in his return had 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Good job. Cam Spencer with those 11 assists. But you lose that game. All right, that's its own thing. And now we have to talk about the Ja Morant trade stuff, which happens all weekend. Well, they did have another home game against the Nets, and it turned out almost as bad as you could possibly imagine. They got it to a comfortable lead against the Nets team, missing Michael Porter Jr. They were winning, though, taking care of business. Cam Spencer tied his career high with assists in this game. His second straight game, having double-digit assists. First time in his career he's done that. But once again, fourth quarter, you're giving up this lead. The Grizzlies gave up a 19-5 run to the Nets to fall down by 8 points with 3 minutes left. This was almost the nadir of the season. I had already called the nadir of the season, said it already happened. No. It seemed like this was it right here. Blowing this game to the Nets, that was going to be the rock bottom. But somehow, the Grizzlies turned it around. Cedric Coward, who had 13 points in the first quarter, came up with a couple of gigantic clutch 3-pointers. The Grizzlies closed the game on a 13-0 run. They hold the Nets to under 100 points. Jock Landale has a monster game, lots of offensive rebounds. Jaren does badly brick another clutch field goal attempt, but luckily Jock was there to have the ball wedge into his body. It comes off the rim so hard. Jock finished this game with 16 points 9 rebounds, 5 of them on the offensive glass. By the way, Jaren now 6 for 31 on field goal attempts in the NBA's arbitrarily defined clutch situation. That's 19%. Jaren has not been very clutch this season. That has not been a year-over-year problem. At least the stats don't say it has been. But so far, very much he has struggled this year. Cedric Howard, nice game, 21 points. Again, 13 in the first quarter, 6 in the final 2 minutes, finishes with 21. Cedric is our bright spot. Now, I guess we talk about Ja Morant. Let's get to that right after this quick break. So, I guess I don't know where to begin. You guys as Grizzlies listeners, you know what's been going on. I mean, on the one hand, Ja Morant has not been good. And then we have to figure out if he can ever be good again and if the bridge has been burned. Some national reporting, Tim McMahon saying the bridge has been burned. I think we try to piece together, when we do this conjecture stuff, we try to piece together, when has the bridge been burned? There's reporting that the team suspension this year, coming on the heels of his outburst after the Lakers game and probably his on-court play in the Lakers game where he did not try, seemingly. They're saying that was maybe the final straw. I think you can also guess, as we have to piece together, not our firsthand knowledge, you could probably guess going back years, the relationship has been strained. You could look to when the team suspended his friend, Devontae Pack, from attending FedEx Forum games. This was after the incident in the Pacers game, some on-court in-arena stuff, and then the alleged laser pointer incident with the Pacers team bus. There's all of that. There's the team suspension going back to the Colorado nightclub. And then the NBA suspension. Did they stand by Ja when he was getting punished by the league? Did he not do enough? This is all trying to guess what's been going on with Ja Morant. Is it purely physical? He's just not as good as he used to be. These are all the questions the Grizzlies have had to ask themselves. And then you have to look at, I guess, the facts of Ja Morant, the player. This season, he's just not been very good, just flat out. He had that 40-point game, had a couple of eruptions where he looked like a great player, but he has been a sub-all-star player. Just speaking to facts, of course, Ja Morant has not been an all-star since the 2023 season. Over the past 3 seasons, I feel like this is important to just continue to point out, he's been unavailable for so many games. He played 50 games last year. They went 30-20 in the games he played. But he has played in 2 wins in the last 2 months. 6-12 when he plays this year. I was just going back and adding up all of the Ja Morant stats. Like 18 of 39 games. They played 39. He's appeared in 18. Previous year, he played 50 out of 82. Of course, the previous year, he was suspended and then injured. 9 out of 82. And in the previous year, we're talking the 2022-2023 season, Ja Morant's last All-Star season. He was suspended for those games near the end of the year, so he finished the season missing 12 of the final 20 games because of the suspension stuff. You add all that up, he's appeared in 85 games out of the Grizzlies' last 223 regular season games. You add it all up, including the postseason, Ja Morant has played in 50 wins in the last 3 years. This is since the Colorado nightclub suspension. Since March 4th, 2023, that's 1,050 days, about 1,046 days, I think it is. He's appeared in 50 wins. So how much of that is physical? He's injured. How much of that is motivation? How much of that is a frayed relationship with the team? This is where we do the conjecture. Finally, other people have started mentioning, is this like a Vince Carter situation? I brought this up a while ago. Vince Carter back in the 2004-2005 season quit on the Raptors. I didn't have league pass 20 years ago. I don't know if it was a similar thing. Once Vince Carter got traded from the Raptors, all of a sudden he was good again. He was averaging like 16 points per game on the Raptors. Went to the Nets, averaged 27 points per game, back in MVP discussions. I can see on Basketball Reference, he got Comeback Player of the Year votes, which is deeply offensive because my memory of this, again, 20 years ago, who knows, is that the reporting was that Vince was quitting on the Raptors and didn't want to be there anymore. Could Ja Morant be an all-star player again? Could he be all NBA level again? That is the bet that some other team is going to have to make, that the Grizzlies are going to have to convince, hopefully, whoever they trade with, it's possible. I'm dubious. The stats are not great even when you look beyond the availability. There's been a stunning dip in his efficiency in the 18 games he's played this season. Career lows in points, field goal percentage, career lows in points in the paint. He's the worst three-point shooter in the NBA, period. Just horrible. Career worst three-point percentages. The efficiency, we have the worst stretch of his career, easily, by orders of magnitude, I would argue. He shot 32% in the 13 games he appeared in from October to December. Before this season, he never, ever had a 13-game span where he shot under 40%. Going to repeat that one for emphasis. Before this season, he never had a 13-game span where he shot under 40% combined. He shot 32% from October 24th through December. He has the same number of games this season where he shot 35% or worse that he had all of last season in 50 games. Already has 10 games this year shooting under 35%. That's the second most he's had in any season in his career. But also, I can just repeat these stats till I'm blue in the face. You know it if you watch the games. He's not the same guy. He doesn't get to the rim. He doesn't finish. I mean, career highs in free throw percentage. Good job, Ja. But he's now at a sub-all-star level when he plays. I mean, I'm talking Kobe White, Emmanuel Quickley. I mean, if you squint, you could hope he's Zach LaVine, Tyler Hero. He's not an all-star player right now. And the Grizzlies, and maybe Ja wants to be on a new team. And this is where it gets hard because you can look at the trade partners out there and it's hard to find one. One team wanted Trae Young and they got expiring contracts for him. So I don't think it's as simple as the Grizzlies saying we want to keep Ja Morant if the relationship is sort of over. I do continue to, I'll repeat myself, looking at the Trae Young return and then having the Grizzlies have this leaked out that, we want that too. It's kind of wild. I mean, CJ McCollum arguably has been better than Ja Morant this season. So what kind of return do you get for that? You get very little. A heavy usage guy, maybe you have to tailor your team around him, who hasn't been available. It's a tough sell. I tried to come up on the spot with the reaction episode on Friday with trade partners. It's very difficult. Just coming up with teams you could trade Ja Morant to if theoretically you were going to give Ja Morant away for free. Just coming up with teams that would say yes is hard. I mean, running through every NBA team, look in the Eastern Conference, teams that would say no thank you just to a free Ja Morant. The Pistons, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Sixers, the Cavaliers, the Hawks, the Pacers. I mean, maybe the Magic would, but the Magic aren't trading for Ja Morant with this contract and the guys they already have. They're not reuniting Desmond Bane and Ja Morant. The Wizards, no, they just got Trae Young. Why would the Hornets swap LaMelo Ball for Ja Morant? In the Western Conference, let's forget the whole giveaway for free. Just teams that will absolutely not trade for him. The Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, the Warriors. Why would the Jazz? I mean, Jazz aren't going to. And then you go through the teams where probably they would not. Like in the West, the Lakers, no. They're not going to have all those contracts together. They don't want Ja and Luka. I mean, Rich Paul mentioned trading Austin Reeves for Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, that makes more sense. You can find a lot of trade partners for Jaren Jackson Jr. But the only teams I can come up with that are like maybes, you think of the teams that are desperate, that don't control their draft picks. I'm looking at you, Pelicans, Bucks. You look at the teams where you say they have bad front offices, like the Kings, maybe the Bulls. And then, I don't know, could you convince the Raptors? A Darko Rajakovic reunion? The Heat? Would the Heat be desperate enough or believe in their rejuvenation powers enough? The Bucks desperate with Giannis? Would the Nets do it as a super buy low? I feel like the Nets could do it as part of like a three-way deal. If they trade Michael Porter Jr. for a bunch of picks, maybe to like the Warriors, is there a three-way where they just say, sure, we'll take Ja Morant? But even then, when you're tanking out that hard, I don't think you want to bring in a player like Ja Morant into the building. And I'm not even talking about like off-court stuff. I'm just saying a heavy usage offensive hub who's a defensive liability and also can't stay on the court. Why would you invest in that? As far as reporting on teams interested, I haven't seen anything that sounds legitimate. It's all conjecture. And when you look at maybe one team being interested in Trae Young, and Trae Young has been more available outside of this season, he's usually been available. So I can't imagine there'd be that many teams lining up. I still feel like the Pelicans, if desperate, they thought they could win some more games this season with Ja Morant if they could cobble together some contracts to make it happen. Again, if the Pelicans willingly trade one of their guys like Trey Murphy to the Warriors for multiple draft picks, then maybe there could be a three-way where the Grizzlies send Ja to the Pelicans. They get like Kuminga and Buddy Hield contracts or something. Not sure all this totally works. Maybe you send Kuminga then to the Kings. You get something for that as a four-way deal, but it's going to be very complicated. I will say, let's wrap up with this because I don't have a lot of fake trades that I feel like make a lot of sense laid out for you yet. But I do say the signs, it's worth talking about. The signs keep pointing to tanking for this season, that the Grizzlies are going to tank. And you can retroactively look at many signs and say the signs have been pointing to tanking for this year since the season began. Like right now, a couple of big things. One, just the way that the Ja injury news happened in the last week. Ja's availability, and then maybe that's its own thing, just Ja Morant not wanting to be on the team anymore. The Zach Edey injury news, not that they could control any of this. You can't control when guys get hurt. But signs that point to tanking, if you're just observing from afar, Tomas Islo saying a Zach Edey injury update is expected soon. He doesn't know when it's happening, but Zach is getting second opinions on the ankle. Dropping the second opinions, not that there was any foresight or planning that this was the way they would do it, but that to me says, oh, wow, we're about to steer into it. Also, of course, the reality of what's going on league-wide with the Grizzlies. When they made the Desmond Bane trade, they thought the best pick they were getting back was the 2026 pick swap involving the Suns. They thought the Suns would be in the lottery. Everybody basically did. The Suns are not going to be in the lottery. The Grizzlies hoped, the dream scenario was having a top 10, top 5 pick from the Suns. The other slightly feasible dream scenario, disastrous season also for the Magic. You get 2 first-round picks in the teens or in the top 10. Even if your own season went poorly, you hoped you get your own pick and the Suns pick, you hoped you got 2 top 10 picks. The Grizzlies are not getting 2 top 10 picks. The only prayer at a top 10 pick and maybe a franchise-altering top 4, top 5 pick is the Grizzlies' own pick. The Grizzlies' own pick. They're not going to swap. I mean, they're going to get, looks like the Magic's pick, which could be like 16, 17, 18. But right now the reality is your best chance at getting a franchise-changing guy at the top of the draft is your own pick. That points to tanking. Also, going back to the previous offseason, the Desmond Bane trade, for most people, that was like, hey, wait, what are they tanking? Why would you trade Desmond Bane? Doesn't make any sense. Also, they hired a rookie coach in the offseason. And maybe you can even point to, this is what the Hoops Collective guys did. They pointed to, they gave Jaren that extension, and then they gave him surgery. You had Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. doing surgery in the offseason. You had Desmond Bane getting traded. You had a rookie coach being hired. Someone could oversee all of those things happening and say, oh, that seems like that team's going to tank this year, right? I don't think, my guess is, and I think I said this after the Desmond Bane trade, they're not planning to tank. But you better believe if things get off to a bumpy start, they're going to tank. And it does feel like that's what's going on right now. I mean, also Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. haven't played, which is its own thing. Perhaps they're completely unable to physically play, but there's all these just things going on. We're like, oh, well, maybe we're not trying the hardest. And this is like even a deeper cut one. The fact that Cedric Coward plays on a minutes limitation. Nobody's coming back from injury. No, we didn't play a lot of games in college. But like, Cedric plays 25 minutes a game. They have preemptively put him on a minutes limitation to manage his load. We're load managing guys right now in the middle of the season. A lot of that feels like tanking. If it was another team doing it, you would say, oh yeah, well, they're tanking. That's why they're only playing their best player 25 minutes. I mean, Jaren had foul trouble against the Nets, 29 minutes. But like, Jaren doesn't play that much. Strategic decision to win more basketball games or strategic decision to maximize your draft assets? Seems to be where we are. Anyways, I don't know if any Grizzlies news is going to break. Obviously, could break at any time. Like, with the lack of a market for Ja Morant, are they trying to get stuff together? Does Ja Morant play in Europe in the Berlin game on Thursday, in the London game on Sunday? It feels awkward to have him there and to not play. Surely the NBA wants him to play, but he's going to say, oh, I'm not healthy enough. And who's going to independently verify that? Things are weird as Grizzlies fans. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm curious to see what people think. I know there's a lot of talk about like, it'd be devastating to trade Ja. Yes, sure. But also like what we have in Ja Morant right now is it's not good. Like if Ja Morant wants to stay, okay. This is not like the Luka Doncic trade, guys. Like there's no market for Ja Morant. Ja Morant is not an all-star player. He's not an all-NBA player. He doesn't play. I wish Ja Morant would play. I mean, I wish he'd be on the Grizzlies and play and be good. But if that's not an option, yeah, we'll see what the Grizzlies end up doing. And it's hard. I can't lie and say it's easy. But anyways, if you want to commiserate together, come over to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Let's talk about it in the Slack channel. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.